The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. This is Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for the archive. But we break on command 'cause women rule the world. Buckle up, space travelers. Let the countdown begin.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to go for a ride with host Tessa Nicole Thomas.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high. Get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, July 21st, Sunday, July 22nd for those of you on the East Coast and beyond. This is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a rockin' week, an awesome day, an even better evening. I am your host, Tessa TNT, and I am live tonight broadcasting from beautiful Bayfield, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the encounter online dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. Tonight, I have a treat for all you guys and gals out there. Tonight, we're going to be sitting around telling ghost stories. Hopefully, we'll be hearing yours as well. And we have a special guest tonight. We have Robert from Down Under. Hey, Robert, how are you tonight?
Doing pretty well, Tessa. How about yourself? And how is everyone out there in chat world?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's been hot today. You know, our AC pump went out, but otherwise it's been a good, fulfilling, busy day. So, I know a lot of people in the chat rooms know who Robert White is, but for those of who don't, can you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I can. Obviously I'm Australian. I've grown up and down the east coast of Australia. I've been working a lot with rocks since about 94, stones, gemstones. I've really sort of got into the paranormal sort of field in 2010 when me and my wife moved down to central coast of New South Wales, or Central Slopes actually, and we had quite a few experiences down that way. So I have a few ghost stories to tell, and I've been also doing a lot of the paranormal healing, or the not paranormal healing, but psychic healing type stuff for people over in the US.
Well, that's awesome. So you were saying you've had a lot of paranormal experiences. Can you tell us about your earliest experience?
Yeah, I was 4 years old. I was feeling ill at the time. I might have had a cold or flu or something. I was in my parents' bedroom, in the bed, and I'm pretty sure it was just after morning, because I was alone in the bed, because mum and dad must have gone outside for a while. And I looked down to the foot of the bed, and I was seeing shadow animals like kangaroos, koalas, emus, crocodiles, just sort of moving across the foot of the bed, just above where you can see on the foot in front of the cupboard that was there. And I've later come to realise it may have been Aboriginals doing some sort of dance, because later on, not the same day, but later on in that year, me and both my sisters witnessed a Aboriginal elder done up in war paint in our bathroom. It's a 2-story house, and he was in the bathroom of our bathroom, and he was standing on one leg with a spear, and as I said, in war paint and big white beard, and just looking at us. And we all saw it, and he just vanished in front of us. So I'm thinking that the shadow animals may have been something to do with an Aboriginal tribe, because all of this land that we are on used to belong to the Aboriginals. Well, they nomaded through it, I should say. They didn't actually own it, they nomaded through.
Yeah, it's interesting. What did he do when you saw him? Did he see you, or did he seem like a residual?
He sort of seemed like he might have... He didn't look at us. He just sort of looked as if he was looking far away, and then he just disappeared.
That's very cool. My first experience wasn't really a ghost. The ghost was a year or so after that, but our power had gone out. We had a thunderstorm going on, and this was in spring, I believe it was Siloam Springs, Arkansas. And so we're all sitting around in the living room and talking and telling stories, and I'm sitting on my mom's lap, and all of a sudden she tells us to be quiet. And we're like, what's going on? And she pointed out the window, and across the dirt road and up this little embankment, there was this power pole, and at the cross where it teed, there was this ball of fire, and all of a sudden it flew towards the house and just smacked on the front porch and disappeared. And I'm freaking out, so my mom has her hand over my mouth, and all of a sudden this thing comes up through the living room floor, just slowly, until it was probably about 2 or 3 feet off the floor. And my older brother, Greg, I believe it was down the hallway getting the clothes into a hamper from the dryer so it wouldn't wrinkle, and getting ready to go hang it. And it had moved from the living room into the dining room hallway area. And then down the hallway was where my brother was. And he came out the door. It saw him, he saw it, and it just shot towards him. And he just kind of collapsed on the floor, and it hit the back wall, which we lived in a brick house, and it's so tiny. It seemed big back then, but going back and visiting, it's a very tiny house. I don't see how my mom and dad did it with 5 kids in there. But yeah, it just went out the back wall and was gone. So that was an interesting first experience as far as, supernatural is what I would call it. It seemed, made from nature but intelligent as far as its movement and everything went. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard of those kinds as being will-o'-the-wisps or elementals.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it appeared in the shape of a fireball, I would think it might be a fire sprite.
Oh, that's interesting. So, not really fairy, but an elemental. Sprites are different than fairies, correct?
Yeah, they are.
Can you tell us the difference?
Not offhand, but I do know that there is a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna bat it back to you until we get some calls or any stories in the chat room going. What's your next paranormal story?
Well, after the one at the house next door that from where we're living right now, we went down to next to the family business, and that was in Farm Street, which is probably, well, it's not much point telling you where it is from here because you probably wouldn't look it up or anything. But we moved to the house next door to the business, and me, my mother, and a friend went into the offices in the front part of the building, and we were using a Ouija board. This is the only time I've ever used one, and we were asking questions about my sister at the time because she just found out she was pregnant, and we were trying to find out what the baby would be, what sign it would be, etc. And we got either an extremely old ghost or one that was semi-weak because it was taking ages for it to move the planchette. And it gave us spot-on information because we asked if it would be a boy or girl. It turned out to be a girl. Asked when it would be born, and it said it would be Capricorn. So it was right on that as well. And we then closed up the board, made sure that we'd sealed everything back up the way it should be done. We definitely did protection beforehand too, as well as after. Just letting you know that. And that was in a room about the position where we know that a girl that used to live on that property when it was a house had died from cancer at 12 years old. So we think it might have been her that was guiding everything. And after that, there was, I think before that as well, there was something up in the loft area of that building because that's where all the spare parts were put, all the big stuff. Like all the frames for the bull bars and big tyre wells, that sort of stuff, because there was always a dark feeling in that top corner of that building. I've taken photos of that building too and put it on to my site to show where the thing was that I was talking about.
Did you get any pictures of this apparition or any mists or orbs or anything?
No, it was all still actual film photography back then, and I didn't really have anything at that point in time to take photos with. If I were allowed back in now, I'd try and take photos, but I'm not sure if the company that has the building now would probably allow me in.
Yeah. And you were saying you guys used protection before and after. What did you do for protection?
We did the actual board came with instructions, and it said to clear the mind, do a bit of meditation beforehand, and say a protection spell, like protect us from the east, protect us from the west, north and south, and we open this board, etc., to only good spirits to enter to give us information. I believe that's what it said.
Well, that's awesome.
It was along those lines, anyway.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people don't do that. They don't read the instructions or take those precautions, and a lot of people get freaked out and don't close the board. But that's pretty cool how it, you know, it did say it was a girl, and it was actually right on with what it was telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my a second experience was about a week before my mom had passed, and I've always had issues getting to sleep at night, and I'm sleeping in a bed full of my siblings because we're in this small 3-bedroom house, and I'm looking out in the hallway, and we used to have one of those cool beer clocks with like the flowing water, and so there was a stream or river going on this clock, and I couldn't see the clock itself, but I could see the light coming off of it and bouncing off the hallway, and all of a sudden I hear like footsteps, you know,
Yep.
slow footsteps, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, who is that? Like, everybody went to bed, maybe mom got up for something, and I just didn't see her go by. Like, I must have blinked and she went by that fast or something, and it just got closer and closer, and it was a slow and steady pace, and I call out for my mom 2 times, and the last time I called out, Mom, this woman appeared before my doorway. She was about an inch off of the floor. She was wearing these old-time, like 1800s women's boots, and she's got this long, flowing lace black dress with a black veil over her face, and she stops right in my doorway, and so I pull the sheet up over my face with just my eyes peeking out, and she slowly turns and looks at me, and then she slowly turns and looks back down the hallway and continues walking. And it felt like forever that she looked at me, but I know it was, you know, less than a minute. And then I believe she went into my mom's room. And a week later, my mom was in a car accident. She was killed by a drunk driver. She was on life support for a little bit, but it was pretty scary and interesting at the same time. Like, I wasn't afraid of her. I was just afraid of, you know, what is this? I had no idea what it was. And then years later, getting together with my family, because after my mom died, we were all split apart. My siblings, she was married before she married my dad, so my 3 older siblings went with their dad, and then me and my little brother went with ours, but you know, fast forward, we get together years later, and we're all telling our stories, and my sister had a similar experience where she woke up in the middle of the night, and she said this woman was standing at the end of her bed, and she tells her, close the window. And my sister was probably around 10 years old at this time, and she's like, what? Who are you? And she said, close the window. And she's like, who are you? What are you doing in my room? And her voice got really stern, and she said again, close the window. And so she got up and closed the window, locked it, and turned around, and she was gone. But it was the very same woman, the black dress, the black veil. So, I don't know. To me, I feel like she was a guardian or protector of our family. I'm not sure if it's a past relative or someone that was attached to that property, or perhaps my mother. I don't know. But that was pretty interesting for my first ghost experience.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, punting back to you. What's your next?
All right. Well, going in order, I would say the next one would be after I'd gotten married over in the US to my wife. We had taken a honeymoon period down to, what would it be? It's Seaside, Oregon. And we were outside of the Trade Winds Motel. We'd gone out down to the beach at about 11:30 or so p.m. So it was pitch black night. This was in January, so it was cold as well. We were walking along. I was using just a pen light that I'd bought from one of the Walmarts or Walgreens, I think it was. It wasn't Walmart, it was the chemist type place. And that was all we had to light the way. We were following a path down to the water, and we would hear this flap, 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 flap sort of noise off to our left. And then to our right, he hadn't been there a second beforehand, but there was a guy that just appeared, and so did his dog, a blue cattle dog, a Kelpie, and they were walking along the beach up towards us, going the reverse way that we'd just come from the path. And he stopped, we stopped, and I asked him point blank, "Are you a ghost?" Because he just appeared. And he said something that I can't remember what it was now. My wife would remember because she has she's better at that sort of thing. And then we turned around to look for that noise again because it had happened again, and turned back, and the guy and his dog had vanished again. And we went over to look for what the noise was, and found that it was a western grebe. So we rescued that because there'd been a huge storm at sea, and took that back into our room for the night. Sort of snuck it back in because we'd asked the owner of the Trade Winds if we could take it in as a rescue type thing till the RSPCA could come and get it, and they said no, so we snuck it in anyway. But yeah, that was the next one. The guy just appeared and disappeared with his dog. So I'm not sure if he was actually a ghost or just very fast at disappearing.
So, was the same dog that you found the same one you saw with the guy, or no?
It wasn't a dog, it was a bird. It was a western grebe.
Oh, wow. Sorry, I don't know where I got that.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, waterbird. They live their lives out at sea.
Makes me wonder if perhaps that guy had drowned there, or something happened to him in that area, or...
Yeah, maybe.
But he seemed intelligent, like he responded to you?
He did, yeah. He said, "Did you hear that?" to us. And we had a bit of a conversation. I did actually, I poked him to make sure he was real, but then, as I said, he vanished again just like that. Just there 1 second, gone the next. With his dog.
That's interesting. Very cool.
So are we going to give the number out so that people can call in if they want to?
Oh, yeah. Good catch. I put it out so many times today and set it on a video, so I just automatically assumed it was covered, which it's not, so thanks for getting my back on that one. The number to call in with your ghost story or paranormal, supernatural, UFO, alien, abduction, whatever story you'd like to share. Our phone number tonight is 970-335-9596. 970-335-9596. All right. So, my next one, let's see. So, after my mom passed, my dad went pretty downhill with drinking and other things, and ended up sending us to our grandparents for a visit, which ended up longer than a visit. We ended up going to school and everything there, and while we were there, it was cool during the day. We'd go throughout all the acreage. This is in Pettigrew, Arkansas. We'd go to the ponds and have mud fights and stuff like that, and just trek through the woods and, play different games. It's a lot different than kids these days. But at night, it was a totally different place. It was just really scary and unsettling, and, again, here I am with my sleep issues, not being able to get to sleep, and I'm just laying in bed thinking about the day, or, the show I watched earlier, and then all of a sudden through my window I see this light flickering through the window and onto the wall, and these different shapes like in the light, and then I begin to hear this chanting noise, and so I slowly creep down the end of my bed. It's right against the wall, and the window's at the base of my bed, and peek around the windowsill cautiously, and right next to where my bedroom is, basically next to the house, is the chicken yard, and then where the cows are, and then the garden and everything. So right out here is right near where the chicken tire is. It's just like a tractor tire cut in half with water in it, and there's this fire, a big bonfire, and there's these little creatures dancing around it. Years later I saw gremlins, and that's what it reminded me of. And one looked as if it was, going to turn and look at me, so I flop back in my bed, and I cover up really quickly, and you can see and hear like the difference in what they were doing as far as what they were saying to each other. And you could see the shadows getting bigger, which meant to me that they were getting closer, and some would get darker, some lighter behind it, and they looked as if they were looking through the window. And that took what seemed like forever, but then they finally went away, and then the fire dimmed out, and it was over. It took me a while to get back to sleep, but when I did, I had this dream that I'm in my bed, and it's tilting, like the top of it begins to raise up and the bottom is lowering, and the baseboard on this bed is about 2 to 3 inches below. So as I get to the base of the bed, I'm putting my thumbs under this baseboard, trying not to fall in this hole that has appeared there that has fire in it. So this goes on for a little while, and I wake up from the dream, and I'm sitting here thinking about, what a messed up dream it was, and then all of a sudden I smell smoke, but it's not the same smoke that I had smelled in my dream. It was sweeter, like cigar smoke, and my grandparents smoked rollies, which were out of velvet tobacco, and I knew it wasn't that. It was cigar smoke, and I look at my doorway, which there's no door, there's just curtains hanging, and they're tied back, and there's this man standing there. You could just see this dark outline, and he raises his hand up to his mouth and takes a puff off his cigar, and when the cherry burned bright, you could see his face and the upper portion of his body, his shoulders and his chest, and he was wearing this really nice suit. He had his hair slicked back, and he was just the most handsome man that I had ever seen, and I just knew automatically, like, it was the devil. And, I'm only like 6 years old at this point, and, having nightmares all my life, my dad would tell me, say, God stands before me, Satan fall behind, and I didn't even say it out loud. I said it in my head, and just like that, I was knocked out, and I didn't have to deal with it. And going back to family reunion, telling stories, I tell this story, and my dad freaks out, and he said, your mom told me that same story, except for he was right next to her bed, and they actually carried on a conversation. I don't know what the conversation was. I lost my mom when I was 5. And so I just kind of find comfort it's getting further away. And my kids know, like, I tell them everything. I try to educate them on everything spiritual and, in this realm and the next. And it was just really a crazy experience. And a lot of people tell me, oh, no, that's not what it was. The devil doesn't appear to someone. He sends his minions or whatever to do that. But if you're looking for a bride or whatnot, I would think you would go personally. So that was pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Now, next one for me. We had moved back down to Australia from the US. We'd moved into a house, and we started hearing things on the baby monitor because my little boy was only 6 months old when we come back down here. And his room was in the far back left of the house if you were looking at it straight on from the front of the street. And we would actually hear an old woman's voice on the baby monitor trying to soothe him, like to comfort him to go to sleep or whatever. And he would never, ever go to sleep in that back room, which we had set up for him. And in that same house, the house used to be a Lutheran church. Now, the one day, me and my wife were sitting on the bed, facing each other, and between us, we were about 2 foot apart. And between us, we clearly heard somebody, a male voice, saying, hello. Just like that, hello. And there was no one there. There was no one outside where it could have echoed into the room or anything like that. And we both heard it, both looked at each other and said, okay, we both heard that. And she nodded, saying, yes, we had heard that. We never figured out who the old woman was in the back room because we had gone around looking and asking all the neighbours if they had been using that type of monitor on that type of frequency, and none of them had kids that young to be able to use something like that. So there were at least 2 spirits in that house, maybe more.
So have you tried to communicate with it?
No, we left not long after. We went down to the middle of New South Wales after that, and we moved into a house down there that was also spiritually active because there were things that we saw and heard in there. There were shadows that would go across the front veranda in front of the windows. We would hear voices in the backyard when we were in the front, and when we were in the back, the voices would be in the front, so they'd move on us, and there would be no one around. So we knew that we were hearing things that we couldn't see.
Yeah, it's very interesting to live in haunted houses, and it's funny how people assume, like, well, this is a brand new house, it shouldn't be haunted, but I believe a lot of that is, connected to the property, yeah, or perhaps even, an antique you might have purchased or, something. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how hauntings can happen, or something might even see you somewhere and find interest and follow you home. So do you think that these spirits were intelligent?
Well, they seemed to be, because every time that we would move from one end of the house to the other, they would move to the opposite end of where we were. So either they were just moving out of our way or not, I don't know, but they never really caused any harm. They never drew any major attention to themselves. They didn't knock anything down. They didn't break anything. They were just there. I think they were just saying that they were like hi and like we were here. Just as recognition.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you know, people want to be heard and they don't want to be forgotten. I just wish it was easier for us to hear them, you know.
Oh.
But luckily there's all kinds of equipment out there for that because, you know, a lot of times it does come across as a whisper or, you know, they'll say your name and, you know, you can recognize and hear that part and you'll ask somebody, did you just say my name? No. Well, I just heard somebody say my name. And that takes me on to my next one. It's not really a ghost story, but as a teenager I would walk or run everywhere and then out of nowhere I'd hear my name and I'd look back and it would look like a person, but it was more of like a shadow person. And the more times it happened, it seemed like there was more and more of them. But other than that, like after I was baptized, I had like a cold spell. And I really didn't have anything happen until I think I was 21 and had been over at a friend's house and she had gone to bed. Of course, I'm up all night. My bedtime's generally 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I go to the window to smoke a cigarette and this really cute guy walks up and we're sitting there and we talk and talk and talk forever and she comes out and she's right next to me and she's like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, this really cute guy, and I turn around and to introduce him and he's gone and she's like, there's nobody there and I've been watching you for like 5 or more minutes and there hasn't been anybody there this whole time. And then yeah, it was interesting. It's like, am I losing my mind? What's going on? Because it hadn't happened in so long, you know? And so it was kind of surprising. I thought he was real. Like, I had no clue he was a ghost. So I was disappointed.
Yeah, they can take on that appearance sometimes. Got to say hello to Andrew in the chat room. Hello, BTO as well. Caden. SOR's Cat. Caden, if you have any stories, give us a ring in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're going back and forth in here, and they're talking about, I'm going to call in, but I want her to call in first, and back and forth. Just do it. Don't be scared. If you are, just, you know, type it in there, and we'll read it for you. So.
Hello, Christopher.
Yeah, I know so many people in here that have ghost stories.
Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a story to share with us, just call on in and give us a hoy.
For sure. Well, do you have another one?
Yeah. After we'd left the Tullamore house, where all that stuff was happening, we moved up to the far north of Queensland. Oh, it sounds like you got a caller.
Yeah.
Do you want me to continue, or let the caller have a go?
Well, that's up to you. You can finish your story, or we can move on to this next caller, and you can continue after that as you just started. It's up to you. What would you like to do?
Well, the next story is rather long, so you can give the caller a go.
Okay, we have 1662 area code. Who are we talking to?
Oh, it's Caden. What's up?
Hey, Caden, what's up?
Kate.
Oh, nothing. I figured out.
Oh, you kind of cut out. I can't hear you.
Oh, let me see if I can't get somewhere. Can you hear me better now?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. I may just have to walk around in the backyard then. Anywho, so we're telling ghost stories, and I have some folks in the chat, and I guess I think I told you and Tessa about this one. It kind of goes back to when I was, how old was I? 17, 18. I was still in high school, living with a girlfriend, and the house that we were in was a rental property. The people who owned it, their great-great-grandmother lived on the property as well, and she was a witch doctor. So, you know, we had, you know, small stuff moving around the house and, you know, just small little things, nothing to throw up red flags or anything like that. Well, I don't know really what changed, other than I started drinking a lot more. Apparently, the spirit of her didn't like it. Well, then I started having just some off-the-wall crazy dreams that started manifesting through actual hallucinations during the day, not drinking at all. You know, just during the day I would hallucinate. I would be staring at a wall, and then all of a sudden the wall's melting. Or I'm walking down the hallway, and for a split second, my eyes go black, and I'm facing the other way. It was just like some crazy, crazy stuff. So, you know, her name was Pearl, and I was like, okay, Pearl, I get it. Okay, I'll quit drinking so much. About a couple of weeks went by. We hadn't had any issues. Well, we went to my cabin and hung out, and the girl that I was dating, she was, what's a nice way to put it? Disrespectful. She was very disrespectful. Mm-hmm. They wanted to go to a graveyard. They're like, let's go to a graveyard and investigate it. Let's see if we can't see some ghosts and stuff. So we go, and she is very disrespectful. She's taking pictures, like, what are they, selfies, mm-hmm. next to tombstones and stuff. And, you know, I'm not for that. I wasn't for that. Well, whatever. In one of the pictures, we took like 100. And one of the pictures on one of the tombstones that she took a selfie on was a full face right next to her, right above the tombstone. And it was like a pissed off face. You could see eyes, nose, mouth, everything. Well, it freaked everybody else out, and I just told her, I was like, hey, that's what you get for being stupid. Point blank period. We get back home, and it's like immediately, as soon as we walk back into the house from being at the cabin, it's just like dark. Like, you walk in, I couldn't hardly breathe. I felt like something was watching me the whole time. It got crazy. And it started getting to where I wouldn't sleep at night. I would try to go to sleep, and it would take me hours. It'd be about 4 o'clock in the morning before I finally fell asleep. And she worked at 6 in the morning, and around that time, it didn't get light out till about 8. And I would just beg her, like, don't wake me up when you go to bed, when you go to work, because if you wake me up, I'm not going to be able to sleep, and I'm going to be terrified. Well, she would anyways wake me up, and so I'm stuck at 5 o'clock in the morning by myself in this place, and I would start getting stuff thrown at my head. I would get scratched, bit. I would wake up with bite marks all over me, and not, to me, they're not human bite marks because they were way too big. You know, I don't have them anymore. I had a few photos of when I would have my night terrors. I would wake up and there would be claw marks, like deep claw marks, all up and down my back, all over my face, all over my neck. When I went to work, people thought that, you know, I was getting the shit beat out of me. Really, the crap, sorry. My bad. The crap beat out of me. And I lost, for 2 months, it got really bad to where I lost about 50 pounds in those 2 months because I wouldn't eat and I wouldn't sleep. I was getting delusional because I couldn't sleep, and I guess that's when it decided to really come at me with a whammy. Mm-hmm. I had my first sleep paralysis experience. I remember it very like it was yesterday. I just went to sleep. I heard something growl down the hallway, And I remember opening my eyes, but I couldn't move my head, couldn't move my body. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody threw cinder blocks on me where I literally sucked into the bed.
Jeez.
Like a good half an inch sucked in the bed. And then I see something just black, and its head was scraping the top of the ceiling, which our ceilings were probably about 7 foot tall. You know, it's that. And I seen its head. It scraped across. It was coming down the hallway. It's hunched over. Its arms, like the fingertips, touched its knees or whatever, and it's coming at me. And all I could do was try to scream. Nothing came out. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. And I just kept telling myself, you need to wake up. Wake up. Wake up now. This is not real. This is not real. Wake up. It actually crawled on top of me in the bed with its face to my face. All I could do was turn my head. And at that particular time, I had a rosary that I kept on my nightstand, because back in that day, I was still into my Christianity faith. And I was just staring at it, like, telling it, like, to come at me. I'm like, come on, just, you know, let me touch it, I'll be okay. I'm saying the Lord's Prayer in my head. Nothing was working. And as quick as it came, it left. And I was up hyperventilating. I ran outside and ran to my next-door neighbor's house and was just frantic. That was my first dealings with something like that. And I stayed gone from the house for about 2 weeks, and then they finally talked me into coming home, so I went back to the house. I stayed, and that's when I started getting partially what I considered, I started getting possessed. Time lapses. I would wake up, I would go to the kitchen, and then next thing I know, it's 10 o'clock at night. And I don't remember anything that I'm doing, but apparently I was, you know, cussing at people. I was starting fights. I was walking up and down the road, and people were stopping, and I would just pretend like they weren't there and just kept walking. Like, it was just some off-the-wall crazy stuff. And that part of it lasted almost a solid month before we got help. She ended up getting named to a psychic that was from Crump, Tennessee. They took me to go see her, and she told us, you know, what to do. She's like, you not only have this person that is from there, she's like, Miss Pearl, but you have something dark that has been with you your whole life that, because of Miss Pearl's hatred towards you, has grew stronger. And because you're so broke down spiritually, mentally, and your soul is just broken, like it's all powerful and it's able to possess you. So this is what you need to do, and in a couple of weeks, if you're still not better, come back to see me and we'll go from there. So I went home. It was that night when we put out that spice. It was called marjoram, is what it is. It's the spice you can buy it at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
So you put a little bit in the tops of a Coca-Cola bottle, put one on either side of your front door and your back door, and you're supposed to leave. Well, my dummy self decided to stay. So I put it out, and literally all heck broke loose for 12 hours. That trailer looked like a tornado went through it, because between it just tossing stuff at me and tossing me around like a rag doll, and then taking me over to actually hurt the people who were in the house with me or outside of the house, it was bad. When it was finally done and over with, and I got to where I could feel, you know, the lightness in the area, I felt better. It was like a Mack truck hit me. I mean, I had bruises all up and down my body. I felt like I had the flu, and I ain't even had it. Just the way people say the flu is. But it was bad. So, yeah, that was probably one of my worst experiences since I've been. That's the reason why I got into the paranormal field, was because of that. Because it was crazy, and I never want to deal with it again. I don't want people to deal with it, because whatever that thing was that had attached itself to me was no joke. And do I think it's a demon? No, I don't think it was a demon. I just think it was just a negative entity that decided that it wanted to hang out with me because at that particular time of my life, I was really at the lowest point.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just feeding off of it.
Yeah, they look for that weakness in you, some little hole in your aura to get in and, like you were saying, feed off of you, feed upon what you're doing, and it can make you really sick. How long were you sick for?
That the total from beginning to end was 9 months.
Wow. I'm so
Long
glad you guys
time.
got that worked out. I haven't ever heard of, using Majorum for that. And I'm glad, when it started acting up for that first 12 hours, you didn't just, say, forget this and throw it out,
Yeah. No, I stuck it out, although it was painful, and not just mentally and physically, but you could, at that particular time, I literally felt like my soul was just being shooken up like a rag doll. Like, I mean, everything in me was just shaking. It was traumatic, but it opened my eyes a lot to, oh, okay, this stuff is real. Yep. All right. Well, let's do something about it. Let's help others. 'Cause I don't want them feeling like I did.
Yeah, for
When
sure.
you have something that dark attached to you, controlling your life like that, I was suicidal for a couple of months, and it would not let me commit suicide. It just wanted to continue to torture me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm grateful that it did. I'm grateful, that it didn't let me, but, I mean, that's how much of an impact it had on my psyche, really, at that particular time. It played a lot of mind games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really do get in there, and like you were saying with your sleep deprivation and stuff, like that stuff can just eat you up. But thanks so much for calling in with that story, and if you have more stories, just call in again, or you can stay on hold here for a little bit. But we do need to get to, we got a break coming up here in 4 minutes, and we have a call from area code 780. Who are we talking to?
Hey guys, Craig.
Hey Craig, what's up?
Hi, Craig.
Hey guys. I was gonna tell another story, but I'll tell a different one. Kind of like Caden's. I was like fully immersed in like fear reaction, and I was working really hard, always trying to make more and more money, and I was doing really good. Like I was making very good money, but I was just operating on fear. Just like as a socioeconomic kind of drive, you know what I mean? So I was working hard or whatever every day. I was going back and forth. I drive truck for a living, and I was leaving a place where I would deliver, and I was kind of heading out of town, and all of a sudden I had something choking me, and like it was like a noose was around my neck, and it just wouldn't stop, eh? And maybe an hour later it would go away. And then, like, a few days later, it would come back. Like, I'd be doing something. I'd be in the shower. It would come back. I'd be grabbing some clothes. It would come back. And so, like, what it did is it drove me to search for reasons or answers to it and ways to stop it. So I was looking around at whatever. I couldn't find anything. I was trying to find something that kind of resonated with me. So I picked up Buckland's Big Blue Book, and it's like a witchcraft book or whatever. And I was looking through that for, like, something for protection. And I came to a spell where it's like you need sharp objects in a jar, in a sealable container, and you put them in. You put I don't even think you do anything else with it. I think you just pee in it and then you bury it in your backyard or whatever. And it was really weird because like I was like, okay, it's too strange. Like I'm not doing that, man. Like this is crazy. Maybe I'm just crazy. And so I got rid of it or whatever. I didn't even bother. And the next day, or it was like a few days later, it was Father's Day. And my daughter made me a gift at school, and it was a sealable mason jar with like a clip top filled with nails and your wishes in the middle. So sharp objects in a sealable container.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But what I think it is, it's spirit pushing you to actually face whatever it is or to realize that it is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah,
but the other one I was going to share is a weird one. Is my dad, was making me do laundry. And I was like 10. I didn't want to do it, right? The attitude kid or whatever. And so I go down. I'm pissed off. I go to throw my stuff in the laundry. And all of a sudden, there's a wire pie. And there's a wire from the dryer that hung across. And you could see it. And all of a sudden, a little flame broke out on it, right? It was maybe like 4 inches tall. So I freaked out. I went to blow it out. It wouldn't go out. So I ran upstairs and I told my dad. My dad goes to go down the stairs. About 3/4 of the way down, the whole basement lights up with orange, right? My dad stops, like slipped on his heels on the stairs, fell on his butt, got upstairs, grabbed the cordless phone, calling 911, right? We got the fire truck there and everything. And they go downstairs or whatever to check it out. The house wasn't burning or anything. Like, there was nothing going on. They went downstairs, went to check it out, and there was nothing wrong with anything.
What the heck? That's crazy.
Another weird one. Yeah.
So
anyways, thanks, guys.
Well, thanks so much for calling in, Craig. It was great having you.
Yeah, Craig. Good story.
Well, on that note, we got to go to our first break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from Your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
There's news, and there's the encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter, our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here comes the second hour of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. And you can follow Tessa on Twitter at Tessa TNT. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back everyone. So good to have you out tonight. We're hanging out and telling our ghost stories. And tonight we have the honor of having Robert White with us from Down Under. Hey Robert, welcome back.
G'day, everyone.
What time is it there now? It's like 3 p.m. for you?
Yeah, it's just after 3 p.m. down here.
Nice. How's the weather?
On Sunday. Oh, pretty good outside. Somebody lit a fire on the side of the mountain, so we got a fair bit of smoke last night, but it seems to have cleared up today.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we've had our share of fires here and all over the place in the United States, mostly California again, and but luckily we got some rain not too long ago, so that's helped here, but for sure. Well, it's been great hearing everybody's stories so far and sharing mine with you guys. Let's see. Is it your turn or my turn? I digress.
It was my turn. It was going to be a long story, and yes, Kat, it is me.
Yeah.
Crikey. Yeah, as I was saying, we had just moved from the middle of New South Wales up to the far north of Queensland into a rental property. And the first couple of weeks in that house, we basically had no electronics, no radios, no setup on the computer at that point in time, nothing to be causing what I heard at night. I'd go to bed and I would hear what sounded like a 1930s, 1920s maybe radio show happening, like all the bandstand type of music playing and the really old war type of songs. And that then led into us finding out that there was a little boy spirit in that house because his grave marker was out on the highway. And he would go about turning the TV on and off that we had at no regular intervals. He just, we'd turn the TV off, it'd come back on. And there were times that we, our boy, he was about 4 or 5 at that point in time. We had him in another room of the house, and his door was not just it's a normal type of door that opens and closes in and out type of thing. His door was slammed shut really, really hard. At one point, it slammed shut so hard that it came off of the pins that hold it in. And at that point in time, Adrian was actually in the room when it happened, and he was nearly hit by the door. So after that happened, we went about, we found that there was a sliding track above the door. So we looked out in the garage that we weren't supposed to really go into. The owner had said that she had a whole lot of personal gear in there. We went in there anyway and found the sliding door that was on that room initially. So we took the normal open and closed door off, put the sliding door on, and didn't have any issues after that. And we then went about finding that the father of the little boy that died was still in the area, and he was Papua New Guinean, and their belief is that a spirit will follow family home. So we got in contact with the father. The mother had already gone way back over to Papua New Guinea. So the father was the only one left to get in contact with. He came to the house. He never stepped foot in it. He said he didn't want to step foot in the house. And he just sat outside with us, had a talk for a while, and told us what had happened with the boy dying. His mother had been driving around a curve on the road that was right outside of our place. She had her car on cruise control, and it spun out in a patch of water because it had been raining. That area is notorious for being the wettest area in Queensland. And her car ended up in a drainage ditch, and she survived and the little boy didn't. So he must have seen that there was a house directly in front of where he died and decided to go in there because there might have been people in there. So we called the father. The father turned up, and after he left, there was no more activity.
That's interesting. So most likely he saw his dad and went with him, and that's pretty cool. I hope, you know, he was able to cross over, or, you know, is happy where he's at now, you know?
Well, I'm hoping so too, yeah.
It's so sad, you know, when anyone loses a life, but especially so with a little one.
Well, he was only 3 years old.
Aww.
At least that's what the grave marker was saying.
Well, we have a call in. This is area code 484. Who are we talking to?
Hello, it's Christopher from Allentown.
Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
Hi, Chris.
Hello?
Oh, do you have it? Can you hear me now? Christopher.
Hello, Chris.
Where are you? Oh, he says dead here. I wonder if his phone died.
Hello?
Oh, there you are. Can you
Hello?
hear us now?
Yeah, it died for a minute.
Oh, no.
G'day, Chris.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Doing well here. How about yourself?
I'm all right. I have, I've decided to share some of my experiences when I was younger. It was I figured it would be pretty interesting for everybody to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in this foster home, and I used to wake up just seeing things have moved, and even as when I am younger, I had the fear of the dark, especially. I had glow-in-the-dark stuff in my room. Things would like moved, and it freaked me out. And I used to see shadows. When I was very little, and I didn't understand what was going on. And my foster parents, they just told me it was just a dream or whatnot. And what was interesting, during that period, I used to hear things in my right ear, and it all stopped when I was 8 years old, one of my abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I had night terrors from the age of 8 till I was 40. Really bad dreams. But when I was 40, when I started doing connecting to my roots and stuff, the bad dreams quit. And ever since then, nightmares have been really rare. Like once in a blue moon or whatnot. And what is interesting, when I woke up as a kid and what I do now, I hear this high-pitched hum when something's about to happen. Is that strange?
I've actually experienced high-pitched sounds. I actually experience it quite a bit, and I don't know if it is something paranormal or not, but there could be a connection. Some people claim it's just damage to the eardrum, but I have, noticed the electrical sound, high-pitched sound, like you were saying, before a paranormal happening, because they are energy. We're all energy, and perhaps that's what we're hearing.
Mm-hmm. I remember from when I was in the institution during my infancy, and I remember dreaming that I had visits there, and one particular thing, some man that I saw across from my covers, I was in my bed, came to visit me, a spirit, said, I know your story, and he gave me like a Fabergé egg. You've heard of him?
Yeah.
In the dream? And I looked at it. He rolled it underneath a blanket to me. And I looked in a dark room. It was looked like a bronze pig. But close up, when I got to him, it was egg-shaped. And I finally researched it, and it had something to do with my ancestry.
That is super cool how that works. Well,
what?
I said that's super cool how that works, and how you can get messages that way. And a lot of time dreams are the easiest way for spirits to communicate with us. But that's a very awesome story, and thanks so much for calling in and sharing with us. If you recall any more stories, we have a little less than 2 more hours left, so feel free to call back, Christopher.
I just felt brave enough to finally share it in public.
Yeah, it is scary, but I find the more that I do share my story, the easier it is to tell.
It is.
And it somewhat
I
empowers
think-
you as well.
Yes.
that's it.
I thank you guys for this platform to do so. I'll talk to you all if I need to.
Not a
Okay.
problem, Chris.
Yeah, feel free
Have
to
a
call
good
back.
night.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so we have another call here from area code 662. Who are we talking to?
It's Alyssa.
Hey, Alyssa, how's it going?
It's going great.
I'm so glad you called in.
Yeah, me too. Everybody was telling me to, so I just figured it was time to go ahead and do it.
Well, thanks for calling in, Lisa.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, well, what is your story?
Oh, I have lots of stories. When it comes to the paranormal, I started at the age of 3. I don't have very many vivid memories. My parents can tell me all about it. The very first thing that ever really happened to me involving anything was I was about 3 years old, and I had a brother that passed away, and the night before he passed away, I had what I viewed as angels come to me and tell me a message to tell my parents before my brother passed away. And then after that, it just kind of rippled down. As a teenager, I got in a really dark place. And there's the cemetery that was really close to the house that I was living at the time. And for some strange reason, I felt really drawn to it. And there was a lady that was buried there that was believed to be a witch in the small community that we live in. You would hear stories about her. I didn't know she was buried there until I started kind of going and looking around and reading. But for some reason, I just kept feeling drawn to it. And I would find comfort when I went. And it was really weird and didn't make sense. And I really just thought something was wrong with me for a long time. And then she started visiting me at home. And it kind of scared me for a while because she would visit and she was very dominant and present. And it was the very first time that I had ever had anything like that wasn't a family member of mine. And it was kind of scary at first, but after a while it became very comforting. But for as long back as I can remember, I've seen and felt things that were what we call paranormal. But I've never had anything really happen that was just real scary to me. It's always been comforting and knowledgeable. None of it's ever scared me, I don't guess. It's just kind of felt normal, which kind of was, I guess, in itself scary.
Yeah. Well, it's probably because you started at such a young age, at the age of 3 with these experiences. So, it does become normal to you.
It is now. As a child, my parents never really made me, they didn't know anything about it, so they didn't know what to do. They didn't, they didn't dismiss it. They never dismissed it. They just kind of stepped over it and we went along because they didn't really know what to do. And now with the things that I do and the things that, me and Caden, the things that are part of our lives now and the groups that we're in and things we partake in, when I finally came out to my family and told my family that this is what I was doing, my parents' reply was literally, well, it's about time. And I'm like, well, thanks, guys. Somebody could have said something. Because, I always chalked everything up to just, well, you're just being crazy. This is just weird. No, that's not happening. And now it's everything's in a whole different light. And like you said, it does become normal and it just becomes part of your everyday life. Or for me, it has. I just spirit comes and goes as it pleases. I haven't had a lot of like the UFO experiences that a lot of the guys that call in have had is awesome. And one day I hope I get to have one. You know, Caden has seen 3 or 4, and I've seen what I believe to be one. That's something that I really want to kind of dig my feet in and get into pretty deep. I've never really dug into much of that very much until the last couple of months, but I'm pretty excited about it. But that is something I haven't had very much experience in, and I would really love to. Most of my experience has been in what we call, you know, spirit and paranormal and things of that nature. But in all reality, it's never been scary to me. It's always felt comforting and very home feeling.
Yeah, and that's good that you've had those positive experiences, and you haven't really, you know, had to deal with the negative stuff. It can be very scary, but it's always... Oh, go ahead. I have, you know, we did an investigation not too long ago, where I'm not going to say it was any, you know, what it wasn't demonic, but it was very heavy, and it was a lot of negative, and it was a little scary for me because it was the first time I had ever experienced anything that heavy with negativity. So it was different, and it was a little scary because I don't know, I have never felt that. You know, like I said, everything I've ever felt was pretty home feeling and comforting and light, and just things that needed to communicate and had the need to finish things that they did not get to finish. And like we did an investigation not too long ago, like I said, and it was, we had to shut it down because it was so heavy and negative, and, you know, there was multiple portals there. So there was so much chaos and energy, and some of it was bad, and it was scary because I've never dealt with that. Eventually, I'm going to have to, but you know, up until that, I really hadn't, and it was scary because it's foreign feeling, and you don't know how to deal with it. But yeah,
other than that, I mean, I really haven't had. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, for sure. And the important thing is to, you know, try to stay positive and to know you are more powerful than it is, and don't feed it that fear or contention or whatever it tries to breed at times.
Right. I've learned, you know, I've learned a lot. I have a lot of people around me that are very knowledgeable, and I reach out to anybody and everybody if I think that it can help in any kind of way. I'm very open to that and excited about it because it's not something that you can just, you know, you can't run into somebody at the store and talk to them about it. Really, I mean, it doesn't work that way. So I've learned a lot about how to deal with it, but that was my very first encounter with it. So it was a little scary for something so heavy and dominant to be present that was angry and not, you know, it was scary. And then the multiple portals and it was a little scary, but
so
we handled it and we dealt with it.
Have you learned how to shut those down when they're like negative portals? That's awesome.
I have. Actually, not too long ago, I did my very first one alone. I was a little nervous about it because before then, the ones I had shut down or anything like that they weren't big. They were very small, and they weren't that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So they were fairly easy. I didn't have to exert as much energy as I did for the large one and multiple ones that were there. They take a lot more of your energy, and I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. I didn't even think about it. And it takes a lot more shielding and a lot more projecting than the smaller ones or something so simple as crossing somebody over. Things like that, they take energy, but they don't take that much. And the ones like what you're speaking about, and I'm speaking of the larger ones that are heavy and dominant and negative and angry and just resentful, they take a lot more because they're so resilient.
Yeah,
a lot
for sure.
more. And I was prepared, but I didn't realize that they took that much to I guess per se, get the job done. I didn't realize it took that much, but it does, because they're very resilient. Or what I experienced was very resilient and just bitter and angry and heavy. It was so heavy. It was like you could just feel it everywhere. Just heaviness. And then the mental part of it, as us being human, is hard sometimes. Or for me, that part of it was a little hard, because I kept having to remind myself a lot of the feelings I'm feeling are because of that. You know, the emotions you're feeling and the sensitivity you're having at that moment. For me, in what we do, that's really one of the only things I have a really hard time with, is kind of separating it, because I have to keep reminding myself what I'm feeling is not me feeling it. I'm feeling it because of that.
Definitely.
And up until that point, you know, everything I had ever felt from things like that was pretty much positive and very bright and white and happy and lightweight. And that one was a little more difficult, because it was not at all. And I had to keep reminding myself, like I said, you know, I just get emotional all of a sudden for no reason, and then I feel this huge rage of anger, and trying to remind yourself, just be quiet. There's nothing wrong. It is not you. It is that, and that's why you're feeling it, because it was projecting it out to everybody there, and it was angry, and that was a huge learning experience.
Yeah, and it always is, you know. I'm constantly learning new things, and I'm just grateful
I think in this, that's something that doesn't stop. I think you just keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. Like, I don't think there's like a level where you master everything.
No, there isn't. You just, every day you're learning something new.
Right.
Yeah, and there
Which is
there
exciting.
are no experts in this field.
Exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm not.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And if you have more, feel free to share those as well. You know, we're all learning from each other, and it's kind of cool to hang out with everyone and, you know, hear their stories and experiences, because, you know, it does make us amazing, open-minded individuals. You know, it's hard to pass it off as nothing when you do experience it, and it's hard to get that across to people who haven't, and that's why we are kind of careful with who we tell, because of, you know, the ridicule or judgment, or, you know, nobody likes to feel crazy.
No, and for anybody that, and I'm not saying it's not like that everywhere else, but for anybody that lives in the Bible Belt, in the southern Bible Belt down here where we're at, you can't just go around talking about it, because they'll be trying to send somebody to your house to commit you somewhere.
Yeah.
And seriously, it's like, as soon as you mention it, like the first things that they think about, it's like, you know, you sitting around in a seance with a Ouija board with a bunch of candles, that's immediately what they go to. You're like, no, that's not it at all. But that's what that's their image of it. And sometimes there's just no changing it. But I think a lot of people experience it and don't realize it. I've realized that too. A lot of people experience things and they do not realize that's what it is, and they chalk it up to coincidence and just being stressed or life events. But there's a lot of people that I've even spoke to on a day-to-day basis that I can honestly say 100% experience things, but you could never make them believe that that's what it was. Which is sad, because they're missing out on some amazing things, but you could just never convince them. I mean, you could never convince them that that's what something is. Or here, that's kind of how it is. They just kind of look at you like, what? You need to go to the doctor. You know, I mean, that's kind of where their head's at.
Yeah,
but it's awesome that y'all have this where people can share their stuff and learn from each other, because it's like you said, you know, this is not something you ever stop learning in. especially if you just dive in and go and you roll with it. You just keep learning. And if you're open-minded, you can learn from anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it takes all kinds to make the world go round, and there's that saying you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I totally understand what you're saying about the Bible Belt. I was talking to one of my aunts who lives in Boston, Arkansas, and telling her about what I do with the paranormal investigation and everything, and how I say a prayer beforehand and a prayer afterwards and do other things. And she's like, well, what makes you think that God's going to come help you when you're doing what he doesn't want you to? And I firmly believe that people like us were given this gift for a reason, and it would actually be worse not to use it and build upon it and help other people, because there's a lot of people going through so much stuff and they don't know what to do, and so they need people like us.
I completely agree. I with the gift that I have, I made a choice when everything kind of first bombarded me at one time. I call it a purge. It was just an emotional purge. Everything was stripped, and I was just raw, and I couldn't stand it, because up until that point, I was kind of just the type of person that was just like, okay, whatever, screw it, whatever. And I was not like that anymore, and my hardwiring and sensitivity and emotions were changing, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't like it at all, and I had to make a choice whether I was going to continue or attempt to figure out how to make it go away. And at one point, that's what I wanted to do, was just make it go away, because I was just a mess. I mean, just a mess, and I could not figure out what was going on. And once I figured out what was going on, there comes a time where I had to make a choice whether I was just going to dive in and go with it and see what I could do, or attempt to get rid of it and act like it never happened. And the one thing that pushed me was, I had a medium do a reading for me a while back in my life, and it changed my life. She did. She changed my life completely. And she gave me things that nobody else could give me. And I was in a really, really dark place. And she, like I said, she gave me something that, a doctor can't write a prescription for. You can't get it anywhere else. And it changed my life. And if I can do that for just one person and help one person, that's my goal. That's all I want to do. I got it for a reason, and it would be wrong of me not to be able to use it in the way that it should be used.
Amen, sister. Well, thank you so much for, sharing your story and, sharing your gift with others and helping them, through their hard times. And, a lot of people are grateful that we help them to feel like they're not crazy anymore,
Right.
So thanks for being you and doing what you do and sharing your story. It was awesome.
You are awesome. Thanks for letting us call in, and I hope everyone has a great night.
You too, Alyssa. It was so great hearing from you, and if you have any more stories, be sure to call back in. We'd love to hear them.
All right. Thanks, Tessa.
You have a good night. Well, that was awesome. Are you still there, Robert?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I hadn't lost you. It looked like you were there, but you're kind of quiet there for a second.
Yeah. Thanks for the call in, Alyssa.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, I guess that brings me back to my turn, and I kind of have to rewind because as I'm sitting here listening, I was recalling happening at my sister's house. When I was a teenager, I moved out early and ended up going to Arkansas for a little bit and staying with my big sister Kathy. And we'd have things come up missing all the time there. And we used to call them the takers, because we didn't know what it was, but we knew there was something there, taking our things like our keys or our lighters or whatnot, and you always just felt like there was something there. It didn't really feel dark, but you felt like you were being watched. And this one night, I am laying there trying to get to sleep as usual, and I hear this noise, and I see this movement in the corner of my eye, and I look out. I'm in my niece's bedroom, then there's a living room and the dining room and kitchen, and then my sister's room, and I see these two little guys on top of this book and knick-knack shelf. See, there's this bookshelf below, and then there's about, probably 13 or 14 inches of space, and then, there's a little, knick-knack shelf where it's glass, and you could see stuff in there, and there's these two little guys, and they're probably like 12 inches tall, and they just look like little tiny humans, and they're wearing these clothes that most likely they had fashioned themselves, or perhaps the females in their clan, if there are any, because the two that I saw were male, and they're just playing around up on the shelf, and one sits down on the end and starts kicking his feet back and forth, kind of like a kid on a bench with his feet hanging and kicking them, and the other one is doing something. I can't see quite what he's doing because he's behind the other one, probably taking stuff, and then all of a sudden he runs and tries to push or kick the other one off the edge, and he catches himself and lifts himself back up onto the shelf, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go in and see what the heck is going on. I just can't believe my eyes. And as soon as I sat up, like, I lost sight of them because it's just a doorway, and so by the time I got in there, they were gone. But that was pretty interesting, and that was my first and actually last experience with little creatures like that. It was pretty cool. I'm not sure if you'd call them gnomes or what. We just called them the takers.
That Adam would call them gnomes.
Huh?
I was about to say Adam would call them gnomes.
Yes. They didn't have the pointy hats or anything, but it was pretty interesting nonetheless, and I told my sister about it, and she hadn't experienced that, but we'd just be nice when we ask for our things back. Can you please give me back my keys? I gotta go to work, or I need this lighter so I can have a smoke or whatever. But yeah, that was definitely interesting and different for me at that time in my life.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to what was happening in the spare parts shed that I was talking about before, because everyone in there would lose things. They'd have like their rulers and staplers and pens, sometimes even coffee cups. They'd just disappear. One time, my sister had gone into... she was in the room, in her office, and she'd walked out for a second. She'd left her favourite pen on the desk. She'd come back in, and the pen was gone. And she said flat out to anything that was there, "Bring back the pen now. I'm going to go outside for about 10 seconds. If it's not back when I get back, you're in trouble." So when she went back out, came back in, and the pen was back. So
it makes you wonder if that's where our mismatched socks go. Like, perhaps they take one and leave the other.
Could be, yeah. And going back to up to the far north where we were for my next one, I was exploring a cemetery that they have at the side of the highway up in Babinda. That's about an hour's drive south of Cairns. And I was just walking through. I was saying just to the open graves, just to the graves themselves, that I would come back later on with a audio recorder to see if anyone wanted to say anything and if they wanted to be heard, etc. And from about, it would have been about 3 or 4 meters to my right, that'd be about about 20 feet from me, I heard clear as day, "Ha, yeah, right," in what sounded like a teenage girl's voice. I looked over there. There was nothing. No girls, because you could see all the way back out to the road. And I went back and didn't catch anything. But that was another one that I'd experienced.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm trying to think of the next one. I'm trying to do them in order, but sometimes I forget things. But the next one that's coming to mind is I was living in this, they called it a matchstick house in Mancos, Colorado. And these were actually, it was 2 cabins that were bought from Mesa Verde and brought down into Mancos, and they were put together, and then another addition was built onto it. And, we'd have to do showings for this place all the time. And sometimes I'd go in at night and I'd clean it up, and then we'd stay over at my uncle's so, the littles wouldn't mess it up or anything. And as I'd be vacuuming, I'd just hear this, loud, violent screaming in my ear, and the hair on my back of my neck would raise up and on my arms, and it would just really freak me out. I'd turn off the vacuum cleaner, wrap it up, and just leave immediately. I never liked to be there alone, and generally I wasn't, but there were the few occasions that I did. But on a lighter note, in that house, that was my first experience seeing a spirit animal. I was standing by my heater one day trying to get warm because it's winter time, and my daughter calls for me or something, and so I go to step to the right, and there was this black cat by my foot that I almost stepped on, and it went scurrying back into the back bedroom. I looked everywhere, behind everything. I could not find it anywhere. And then I saw it again on another occasion. I'm in the kitchen cleaning up and doing dishes and stuff, and this cat runs through the kitchen and into the living room, up onto the couch and over it and behind it. And so I run in there really quick, like, I gotta catch this cat, what if it's starving or something? And again, I couldn't find it anywhere. I looked under the couch, looked behind the bookshelf, nowhere to be found. So that was my first experience with an animal that was a spirit. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I have similar experiences here. We used to have a second cat, a big fluffy one, and I could swear that I've seen her roaming around the house at different times of the day. When I first moved back in here, I could have sworn I saw her in the lounge room. Now, we only have a ginger cat at the moment, and Fluffy was a big grey coloured, like dark grey. So there's a definite difference between the ginger cat and what Fluffy was. So I have seen like the big fluffy tail moving around the corner and stuff like that in this house. I hadn't seen anything like that beforehand, but since moving back here, that's what I've been seeing.
And was that an old pet of yours, or
yeah, her and Ginger were both from over next door, over the back fence. They jumped over this side and made this place their home because apparently they didn't like their owners. But she died about 2 years ago now, and yeah, I've just been seeing her around.
That's interesting, and it's cool, when your pets come back to say hi or hang out or whatnot. Yeah, the only other animal ghost that I've seen has been like a ghost deer running across the highway, and I actually asked my husband, I was like, did you see that? Like, it looked like a deer, but the back end of it was just like kind of like a light smear. It wasn't like a full back of it. It was just kind of like light, like moving really fast, if you see, the reflectors on the side of the road or whatnot. So that was kind of interesting. Made me wonder, is it intelligent, or is it just a residual of a deer that tried to make it across the road that didn't quite make it there?
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of opens up that other part, of your brain, or opens up your mind more, There are spirits of animals, and, I do believe they have feelings, and they are intelligent.
Yeah, there has to be.
Yeah, and you see auras on everything, but somebody was talking before how, I believe it was Dan Shaw, the Vortex guy, how our aura and the Earth's aura are somewhat connected or the same. We just have different vibrations and such going on, and you see that on plants and trees and other living things. It's pretty amazing and interesting what's out there.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sitting and thinking of more. So after that point in my life, well, we moved up. My daughter and we were together alone for a couple years until I met my husband. And then we moved up with him to this A-frame in Twin Lakes, which is between Durango and Bayfield. And it was a little A-frame house, and we had several experiences in there. One being my daughter, you would hear her carrying on conversations, and they weren't normal. She'd be saying things like, "Don't worry, Mama E, they'll be quiet, and, the baby can sleep, and, I'll be quiet." And she'd just, try to be quiet and lay in her bed in her room. She wouldn't really play in there. Sometimes at night she'd scream out for us, and we'd run up there, and she'd say that there was like skinny fingered fingers coming over the top of her bed, like over her head, trying to grab her and stuff. And she would talk about Mommy E and Baby E all the time. And so we started asking her questions. And, like, who's Mommy E and Baby E? Why do you call them that? Can you not pronounce their name or something? And she said, that's the noise they make when they're trying to talk. So that was pretty creepy and disheartening. Yeah. And then this one night we're laying in bed. We had moved Kinsey out of this room, not only because the activity, but because in the winter it's we'd pull up and you could see the separation in between the rooms, and hers, like all the rest, would be melted off, and hers would be the only one that still had a coating of snow on it. So you could see from the outside of this A-frame that room was just really, really cold. So we had her downstairs sleeping on this little, it was actually a porch swing that we made into our living room couch, and she was sleeping on that, and we're laying in bed, and you hear the doorknob jiggling, and it's doing it slow. It's like she's trying to open the door, and then you hear the doorknob release, and then the door kind of cracks open. And I'm like, come on, Kinsey, go to bed. You're not supposed to be awake right now. No response. So I get up and I run to the door. She's not there. I run down the stairs really quick, and there she is on the swinging couch, which is not moving, and she's asleep. So that was pretty strange. There was this one time in the same place where I had, I guess, such a vivid dream. I don't remember it, but I was saying no, 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 and then I got up and tried to run out the window in my A-frame. Had I made it out the window, I would have fallen about 30 or 40 feet off this little embankment that it was built on. But luckily my husband was there, and he grabbed me. And let's see, what else happened there? Oh, she said that, as we asked her about Mommy E and Baby E, she said that Baby E died, so Mommy E died to go be with Baby E. And we asked how he died, and I guess he had fallen out of a tree. And we asked what they looked like. Well, baby E just looked like, a little boy. And Mommy E looked like she had been in the bathtub for too long. And that's giving me goosebumps right now. That place was really interesting. Very vivid, crazy dreams in there. I guess shortly before I had moved in there, my husband had one where his family was like floating up and trying to go out the ceiling, but they were just kind of stuck on there, and there's little wisps of things like flying around, and he woke up and he had his samurai sword and he was like whipping it around everywhere, and luckily nobody was there because he probably would have made a mess of them. But yeah, it was a very interesting house, and nothing had been built there before this A-frame, and it was basically brand new. And so that's where you kind of get, there was something here before, or something connected to this property. It could be, 50 acres or hundreds of acres or whatnot. And that spirit could just, decide to be on this certain portion of it. But it was pretty unnerving and interesting. It was a learning experience, and we were actually talking about that earlier, and my daughter likes to freak her friends out with that story. But we moved out shortly after that and into Bayfield, where we've got so many more experiences. But it's your turn unless somebody calls in.
Yeah. I was just thinking while we were talking, there was another incident that happened before we got to the far north of Queensland. We were driving up from Anna Bay in New South Wales, where we'd had a bit of an experience with the car breaking down. So we had a second car that we had. We had put all of our animals into the trailer that we were hoisting up to far north Queensland. Drove for about 60 kilometres, and then the engine in the second car died. The transmission blew, and we got towed to Foster Tuncurry in New South Wales. And while the mechanic was looking at the car, trying to figure out what had happened, he said that because we were pretty much homeless at that point in time, because we were moving up to the home in far north Queensland, that we would be able to stay probably a week or so in the shed across from his mechanic shop. Now, the shed had been one of those places where they build the A-frames for the houses out of wood, and we had set up in the back section where they had been making the frames. And we had an air mattress, obviously, a couple of tents for the boys, and for Adrian at least. And we were staying there. There was no lights because there was no electricity in the place, so we had torches to guide our ways. They only had cold water, so we were taking cold showers and whatnot in the shower thing that they had in that place. But when we'd go to bed, we would hear, well, they had the three big doors. They had the door on the left, door on the back, and door on the right for bringing in and out the big pieces of wood and the A-frames out, basically. So we would hear bang on the door to the left, bang, bang on the door in the back, then bang, bang, bang on the door on the right. Just one after the other like that. And we also heard quite a lot of whispering sort of in the front section, which was where the offices were. So that's another one that I've racked up to being something that didn't want us there, because we had all of our animals there. We had dog, cat, goat, 2 guinea pigs, a number of chickens, and 3 cockatoos. And having that many animals in all their separate cages in the back of the trailer, you would think they'd be going off all the time. But being in the back of that shed where we'd all sort of gathered together, they were silent. So that gives you an idea that they could pick up on something too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting how animals do that. Like they have a heightened intuition or perhaps like survival instinct or whatnot to be still and be quiet with certain things going on. And if you do pay enough attention, you get the heads up on that as well.
Yeah.
So we got a couple questions coming in. And before I get to those, I just wanted to add, with the A-frame, I remember the last straw being there was my daughter. She was at the top of the stairs. We were all downstairs watching movies. I think she had run up to get a book or her blankie or something, and all of a sudden you see her flying through the air, like, I kid you not, doing cartwheels. That is, the momentum that something had pushed or kicked her. She was just tumbling through the air, and she hit the bottom of the stairs, and we went to the ER right away, and shortly after that we moved out. Like, we were done with that house. My husband was particularly attached to it because it was the first house that he had purchased. But that was the end for me. I'm like, you can stay here, but I'm gone. When it starts harming my kid, I'm not into it anymore. But let's see, getting back to these questions, we have one here from Craig, and he's asking, when did both of you guys come to the point of realizing that you could help people with your gifts? And actually, we need to go to break right now, and we'll start back up on that note. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month, where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. It's hour number 3 of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now back to the Rocky Mountains. Here's Tessa.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight and sharing your stories. It's been so great to hear them and have you all call in. Speaking of which, we do have a caller at the moment. And who are we speaking with?
This is Crow.
Hey, Crow, how's it going?
Not too bad, man. I'm out in the middle of nowhere with my scope, enjoying the sky night.
That's awesome. You seeing anything good out there?
Yeah, I saw Jupiter so far, and I went for Mars to crest over the top of these trees. Pretty nice and quiet, man.
Yeah, Mars was actually very bright the other night. We were driving up to Winnemucca, Nevada to save a friend of ours, and it was just so bright and orange, and so I pulled up the star map, and I believe it was Mars, And which was the one that you had just said?
Jupiter.
Jupiter, and I believe Saturn was in there too, but they were so bright the other night. I'm glad you're getting a good look at those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had to get away from town to do it. It's not like it used to be. It's gotten kind of bright lately. Going toward the light, you know?
Yeah. All that light pollution.
Yeah. I got a few stories.
Okay.
The one that I remember when I was the youngest, I was probably about 4 or 5. And my father had built a house on the lower half of my grandfather's farm back east. And I was on my rocking horse, and I still remember looking out the big picture window. And I saw this shadow walking down the street, and it's just really black. But the detail was really, unique, because it had looked like it had a dunce cap on and a string of books hanging across his back. And what I was trying to differentiate when I was little was, the fields across there are all green with corn, and the trees are all green, and, distinguished colors. There's this black shadow just bebopping down the road. And, of course, my mom, says, oh, that's your imagination, And come to find out later, she says, oh, there's stuff happening there all the time, but I didn't want to scare you. I'm like, crap, I thought I was going nuts for years, man. But that was one of my first experiences. I've had a lot of, I'm kind of like a freak magnet, I'll go out and just mind my own business, and something will pop up, and, you get used to it. Like, this old house we're in, the farmhouse, I used to get smacked around and shoved in the walls and stuff, and it was crazy. As a little kid, you don't really have fear. You just like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
As I got older and got into martial arts and the real heavy spiritual aspect of it, opened up more to a lot of different things. And my boys, both of them, see things. My little girl, I got a 9-year-old daughter, she sees things, and I'll see them. And it's kind of cool, because it's a family thing, you're not going all nuts, but then you can't go ahead and tell the neighbors, hey, there's somebody standing behind you, and lock you up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
That's the earliest one I can remember. And I've seen the shadow people, and I have a ghost cat at my apartment. That's kind of unique. My daughter pointed it out to me. And I woke up one night with a pressure on my chest, and I woke up, and there's this silhouette of a cat on my chest. I go, shoo! That thing jumped off and just right through the wall. It's like, all right, man, I'm going back to sleep. But I used to get really freaked out and scared at times, but anymore it's just like a natural part of my life. You open up and start seeing stuff, and you really can't be burning, you got to remember, they're not all negative energies. Some are just guys passing through. Some are just lost souls. It's not all this evil stuff. So I don't go around the house burning sage and sweetgrass and all that stuff anymore like a freak. If I get that tingle that you can feel if it's negative, because I get like a deep pressure in my chest. A real yucky feeling, like if I meet somebody, you meet somebody and they're funky. Mm-hmm. You got that feeling. It's like, man, I don't want to have anything to do with this person. That's how it is when I'm around a negative energy. Even if I'm out camping, I'll feel it, and just be wary. So that's what I got to say for the evening, though.
Okay.
Well, that's awesome. Those are good stories, and I'm so glad you shared them. Robert, what were you saying?
Oh yeah.
I was just saying that. Yes, it is. They were good stories. Yes.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll be on the side, man. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Yep, you
and
too,
if you see anything more interesting than the planets out there, make sure you put it in the chat room or call us back and let us know for sure.
Oh, I definitely will, man. I'm out on native land, so I'm sure someone will come up and say hi to me.
For sure.
All right, man. Take care, guys.
All right, you have a good night.
Night. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye, Crow. And it is so interesting how, it is passed down for a lot of families. Like, all my kids, I call them spooks. Come to find out later, that's not such a good term as far as, undercover people coming in and, trying to cause issues. And I've heard another term for it as well, but they are all a bit spooky, and they can see things, and they all have their own, like, individual, unique gifts. But it is very interesting how those gifts can be passed down.
Most certainly.
Have you experienced that with your kids?
I think the eldest has been able to see things because when he was in that room with with Josh, that was the little boy's name, he'd say that he could see things. He could see light orbs floating around and all that sort of thing. But there were two sets of windows in his room. There was one that led outside, and then there was one connecting to another room that they must have built onto. And he'd say that the light would go through from the one room to the next room through that window. So I'm thinking he might be able to see things because, yes, Andy, it's me. Hello. He's been able to see things like his mother. His mother can see things a fair bit too, because on our last drive from far north down to here, and then we're back in Rockhampton again. We were driving along. We were just driving over a bridge, and she said to me, "Did you see that boy jump out from the other side of the bridge?" And I looked back straight into the rear view mirror, and I couldn't see anything. But she said that she saw a little boy jump out in what looked like what is it? When you have the overall type things on that has the braces over the top of the arms, like the
Mm-hmm.
that's what, like the old farming type of get up. She said that he jumped out from behind behind the piling of where the bridge ended, and I didn't see him, but she did. She also had an experience with what I believe is a water sprite or water guardian at Josephine Falls in the far north. She was taking Adrian along on her back into the water of this area, and she was heading over to one of the big rocks. The water in that area was rather strong, and she thought that the rocks and sand that were on the bottom of the floor of the waterway would keep going straight, and she stepped out and there was nothing beneath her feet. And she started flailing, and Adrian was still on her back. She reached out towards the rock, and she says that she had a hand pull her up onto the rock to get purchase of it. And there was nobody on that rock because I was about 30 feet on the other side of where the water was going through really fast, and I could see the rock. There was nobody on it.
That is so cool. I'm so glad that, it was there that day to help her. I mean,
most
can you
certainly
imagine how terribly wrong that could have gone?
Well, there have been quite a lot of deaths in that area because people haven't listened to what the warnings have been. Like, they have a higher up waterfall that is off limits, but people still go up there and go swimming, and when there are flash floods in that area, it just goes like a raging torrent, and I think there's about 18 or 19 people have been killed, like mainly tourists that don't know the area and don't know what can happen.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's sad, there are certain areas like that, and like you said, it's generally tourists or people that don't pay attention to the signs and don't know any better, On that note, we actually have a caller in, and it's area code 662. Who are we talking to?
It's me again. It's Caden.
Hey, Caden.
Hello, Caden.
Hi. What's up, Rob?
Crikey.
Oh, no,
Not a lot.
We were literally just sitting here, and I told Alyssa, I was like, see, couldn't you just listen to Rob talk all night with that accent?
Indeed.
I'm telling you. So I actually have two stories, depending on which one you want to hear. I said it in the chat, but then you went ahead and said my area code, and I was like, oh, crap, never mind. So either I can talk about the investigation at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, or I can talk about either what goes on at our hospital here in town, or actually our Taco Bell here in town. Whatever you guys want to hear.
Let's start with, I don't know. Where do you think you should start?
Which one?
The investigation?
Okay. Back in February, my group, we went to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, which is in Tennessee, I want to say. It's right next to Ruby Falls. We went there. The story to the hospital, there's quite a few in between. You'll just have to look it up to see what all it is. It's an old shutdown hospital. They keep it up and running for paranormal investigators to come through. The Tennessee Wraith Chasers actually got their big gig because of that hospital doing Zach Bagan's challenge.
Nice.
Okay.
So we get there, and we're with another group, and we're walking around. First time that me and Alyssa have been there. And we're hearing all these stories, about Mr. Jim. He's of Cajun descent. He used to be the janitor there. Then you got the two ladies on the second floor, and their names escape me right now. But one of them, she doesn't like men, but she likes women. She's nice to women. The other one doesn't like women. She's nice to men. And then in the basement, you had what they called the naughty nurse. She likes to whisper sweet little things in your ear and touch you in private areas.
Oh, no.
She's a fun one. Yeah, she's a fun one. And then entity that they nicknamed Creeper, the Creeper. He's not really sure what he is, but you can see him on video a lot going. He starts on the floor, and then he crawls on all fours up the side of the wall, on the ceiling, back on the other side, and he just keeps going down. And he's wicked fast. Crazy wicked. So we get there, and we're doing our thing, and we don't have anything happen to us all night long. I mean, it's just dead quiet. We got a few hits during a small little sensory deprivation, but nothing big. So the following morning, we go to the basement, and we start with the I lost my train of thought. We started with the spirit box down there, and we started talking to Mr. Jim. Mr. Jim kept saying that he wanted a cigarette, so I got my pocket and got a cigarette, and I put it down for him, and he said thank you. And then another lady came through, and she was talking about how tragic. We're asking, what happened? Was your death tragic? Is that what you're saying? She's like, no, the baby. So tragic about the baby. And this is the first time any of us has ever heard about it. We're like, what baby? Well, apparently, according to what was coming through on the spirit box, there, and this is on our page, or it was on our page. There was a lady that was at the hospital, and they were in the basement, which is also the laundry room, and put the baby in the washer.
Oh.
And the baby ultimately passed away, and it was an old school washer. Like that washer is still down there. It's got the crank side and everything where you feed the clothes through to wring them out. Like it was that type.
That's terrible.
So she kept saying, go up to the second floor. Well, the first floor. And the first floor is the administration and the X-ray rooms down that way as well. And it's also the rooms that teams sponsor out where you can actually sleep in the hospital. Well, room number 3, one of our mediums, Shannon, she had been there previously. And that was a room that she was physically attacked when she was sleeping. She woke up to an entity choking her, and choking her to the point where she almost blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just kept saying, go upstairs, go to the room. We asked what room, and it kept saying 3, go to 3. Like, okay, we'll go up to number 3. So we start, we turn off the session, tell them thank you for communicating, and we'll be back in a minute. We start going up, and me and Destry and Shannon are kind of walking with the EMF. And I go to this little closet area right before you get to room number 3, and it just has a curtain over it instead of a door. And I was like, I wonder what's back here. And there's no windows really in this place. It's very few until you get to the rooms. So it's still pitch dark in there. And I poked my head into this little room, and I got dizzy. One of those when you're drinking on moonshine too much and you stand up and you get dizzy and you're about to black out. It was like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy crap. And I backed up and I'm stumbling, and Shannon and Destry catch me and they're like, what's wrong? I was like, just poke your head in there and tell me what you feel. Because I wanted to see if I was just going crazy and just had a moment. So Destry does it, and the same thing happened to him. He's like, holy crap. And then Shannon pokes her head in. She's like, wow, that's heavy. That's bad mojo. And I'm like, yeah, it's bad. I was like, let's just get to the room. I need to sit down. I couldn't even get through the threshold of room number 3. It wouldn't let me. As soon as I took one foot in there, I felt myself getting sick, and I took off to the bathroom and was sick for about 30 minutes. It was rough. So we get in there. I get okay, and I'm like, all right, I say my little blessing that I do. I'm like, all right, shield up, let's go. So I get in there, and we connected with that entity that had choked Shannon a year prior, the last time she was there. And it did not like us being there at all. We never got the name. We never got, who it was. But I thought that was, a story worth sharing. And ironically, a few times on it, it kept saying, which it tickled us because you just have to know the backstory of it. It just kept saying, the blonde that insert B word here, because we're on the radio.
Yep.
And I'm being respectful.
Yeah.
Insert B word here. I mean, it was just dogging this blonde-headed lady, which we had 2 blondes with us. And it just didn't like her. Saying, we didn't know who it was, and some of the things they were saying, didn't really make sense until after we left. Like, calling her a dopehead or crackhead, I think is the word that it said. It was crazy. And then it said scratched. And we're like, no, you can't, you're not going to scratch any of us. And then it said already did. So we're all looking on us like, okay, who just got scratched? And it didn't happen right then. It happened whenever we ended the session and started walking out of the room. And when we walked out of the room, Alyssa actually got some pretty, I think it was 3 or 4 decent scratch marks from her elbow to her wrist that were deep. They were welted up, and they didn't go away for a few days. It took them a while to go away.
That's insane.
So yeah, that was our experience at OSPH.
We got a request from Shar on here. She wants to hear about your Taco Bell story.
Oh, okay. So I started working at Taco Bell when I was 15, and nobody ever thinks, nobody ever hears about ghost stories from a restaurant at all. At all. That's just one thing you never hear about. So I used to work at Taco Bell. That was my third job growing up. I worked there for 2 years. Well, into my first year, I worked night shifts. So I worked from 5 o'clock at night till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because I closed. Well, we had just closed down the inside, and we were just running drive-through, and it was me and 3 other people. And I want to say it was probably about 11 o'clock. Well, I'm in the back, and I'm scrubbing pans and stuff, and one of the girls that works there, she come back there just like wide-eyed, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And she was like, there's a man out front. I don't know how he got up inside, but he's up front. And I told him that we were closed, and he just refused to move. I was like, oh, gosh. All right. So me and my manager, we go up there, and we're, going to confront this guy to see if he's drunk or what the deal is, because I'm like, maybe you thought you locked the door and you didn't. And he just walked in. He just wants some tacos. Can't blame him.
Yeah.
So we go out there. We go out there, and I'm like, dude, where's this guy? She's like, he was just here. I was like, well, what did he look like? Because I don't see anybody. I mean, was he a small person or was he normal size? I mean, because I'm not seeing anybody. So we go check the bathrooms and everything and check the doors. The doors are locked. And I'm like, dude, there's nobody in here. Like, what did you smoke before you came to work? Because obviously you're tripping. And she's like, no, this guy had blue jeans on, a white T-shirt. He was probably about 5'8", 5'9", white guy with the buzz cut. And his name was Hank, because he told me his name was Hank. And I was like, okay, well, whoever Hank is, he's no longer here. And apparently he's got keys to this place and locked the door. That's my manager. I was like, just any of the owners, were they scheduled to make a pop-in or what's going on? She's like, no. And I was like, well, screw it. Let's just roll back the cameras and see who this person is. Kid you not. You see us lock the doors, and then you see her wiping the countertop up front, and then she raises her head up, and you can see that she's talking to somebody that's not showing up on camera at all. And then you see her walk back there, and then the only thing that happens with the camera is that it has like a small glitch whenever she walks off. But whoever she was talking to, the Mr. Hank, he didn't show up on the cameras at all. And we found out later that there was actually an old employee that worked there. His name was Mr. Hank, and he had worked there for many years, and he had passed from a heart attack that year. So I guess he was just popping in to say, hey, let's see what was going on. I thought that was pretty strange, and ever since then, there's been a couple of occasions where people that I know that still work up there, they're like, yeah, Mr. Hank popped in today. He did this, or the new employee seen Mr. Hank today. So, yeah.
Hope he isn't expecting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, had it been me seeing him, I'd have been like, hey, dude, I don't know who you are, but here's a rag. Help me clean so we can get out of here.
Yeah. Wash those windows.
Yeah, exactly.
Still had a
the
hankering.
bathrooms are really, really bad.
Yeah, still had a hankering for tacos in the afterlife.
That's it, I'm telling you. But I just thought that was strange because now that I'm in this field, 9 times out of 10, they're going to show up on camera. So apparently he had something going on with him so that he didn't show up at all.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Especially that she had seen it with her eye, and like you said, it didn't pick up on the camera, and that's so interesting because usually it's the opposite.
Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, that was my first time, and I've never seen a case like that since. It's always been the opposite, where they don't see them, with the naked eye, but it's caught on camera. I've never came across another case like that, so I thought that was really intriguing.
It is. So did you say you had 3 stories?
Yep, I got another one if nobody's calling in or nobody has any questions.
Well, we actually have Christopher on the line. We can have him tell his story, and then I also have a couple questions here from the chat room I've been meaning to ask, and I swear I'll get to him. But let's go to Christopher here real quick, and then we'll ask a question, and then we'll pop back to you. How's that sound?
Sounds good. I'll just hang out in the chat room.
All righty. Christopher?
Hello, it's Christopher. I'm back.
Welcome back, Christopher.
This is a dream I wanted to share. I was talking in a chat room about a flag.
Mm-hmm.
In this dream, I dreamed of traveling across a bridge, and I've seen many flags, but then I turned left on this one-lane highway, one-lane unmarked highway, and I've seen this stopping place that had this flag on it, and I dreamed I was traveling down this long, lonely road for days, and I was supposed to go there, and then eventually I was there. It was like a mountain and castles and stuff. And what's interesting, this bridge I traveled seemed like it was an eternity of length, and all the flags were of that region at the time. And when I got off the bridge, I saw those flags, but then as flags stood out, it was blue and white, and I ended up looking it up online. It was San Marino in Europe, and it was really crazy. And I suspect this will be my next question on the next Sunday show.
Yeah, it sounds like a good one. We got a Jamie Clark in here tomorrow night, and he's a really good psychic medium, and I'd definitely ask him that question.
Oh my God, I've known him for about 5 or 6 years.
Oh, nice.
Ever before I've been on SOR, I've known him.
Well, that is super awesome. Well, I'm glad you have a tie with him.
He's on my friends list.
That's super awesome. Did you have any more of your story?
No, I just wanted to share it real quick and let people comment on the chat.
Well, thanks so much for sharing, Christopher. We really appreciate you calling in.
Thanks. I hope you have a good night. I'll just sit in the background and let people chat.
All right. You have a good night, Christopher.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later, Chris.
So Robert, Craig was asking, and we left off on second hour with this one. When did both of you guys come to the point of realizing that you could help people with your gifts?
Well, mine was in 1994 when I was using the internet in the offices of the spare parts building, like I was saying before, where I know that there was the spirit of the 12-year-old girl that died of cancer, and whatever the other thing was above in the darkened area up above in the mezzanine floor. I was in one of the offices one night talking to somebody over in Pennsylvania, and she was suffering from either an abscess tooth or she had to get root canal filling done on her tooth, and she was saying how much pain she was in, and I don't know why, but I just started rubbing my hands together and said, let me try something to her on the chat screen. And I'm not sure if I was guided by either of the entities that were in the spare parts building or if it was just something that clicked in my head to just try. I just started sort of, you know how you pull back on a syringe to get whatever it is out of the vials or out of the bloodstream when you're drawing blood. That's how I was doing this at the monitor, and I was actually pulling out the pain from her, from Australia, all the way to Pennsylvania, through the computer. And after a few seconds, she said, "How the hell did you do that?" So I was just, I said, "I don't know. I just did it." And that's when I sort of knew that I could do other stuff other than what normal people can do. And I didn't really do much after that until I'd gotten in and started listening to Dave's show a couple of years back, because I didn't know if it was actually real or not what I did. And then I started helping people all over that way. I've helped people in several other shows, like Vanessa Hogel and Mike Ricksecker, their show. There's a couple of people in there that I've helped. I helped Seth Kinsey, also known as Robert Rose. He used to come on here. He actually lost his dog in where he was in New York City, or New York. And he'd posted that he had lost his dog. So I brought up the Google Maps and was just looking over the area where the place he said on his profile wasn't actually where he lived. So I was searching sort of to the right, and I had like one of those sonar pings like they have in the submarines, and I sort of focused in on that area, zoomed in until I got a fairly big ping, and I wrote him a message saying, "Your dog is coming down this road," and he said, "That's my road." So he goes outside, and the dog, sure enough, is wagging his tail very happily, just wandering up the road. And so that's that story. Shortly after that, I was in another chat room talking with Russ and Sandy Wells. They were doing a show of their own. They were at the the cemetery where Bruce and Brandon Lee were buried. They weren't actually inside of it because it was after hours. They were just looking around the outside, seeing what they could see. And I was helping them through the chat room to try and locate things that were of interest. And at one point, Russ was saying, "Oh, there's a white light coming up from one of the graves." And I said to him, "Wait for 30 seconds and it will rise up again." And 30 seconds later he said, "Okay, that's it, time to go." So I don't know if I spooked them out or what, but they left pretty hurriedly after that.
Yeah.
So,
they're like, "We're totally out of here." Well, for me, I've always been careful about who I share my gift with, and I used to do readings for people with tarot cards and give advice just off the cuff to people. And like I've said before, it's easy for me to do that for people, hard for me to trust myself, to give myself advice, because I think I'm trying to sway myself one way or the other. Is this really good advice? But it was 2012. And Dylan Redwine had gone missing, and I had 3 kids at this point. My son was just a baby, and I'm holding him on my lap, and I'm thinking about this poor mother and family, and what she's going through with her son missing, and looking out at the snowy field and back, and just hoping, I hope he is safe and alive. At this point, my husband and I had come to the conclusion that he wasn't with us anymore, but I wanted to hope against hope, that he was still alive and warm and safe somewhere, wherever he was. And I actually saw a UFO orb at that point, but that is when I decided I'm just going to quit, being in the paranormal closet. I'm going to come out and I'm going to try to do what I can to help this person. And we've done many searches on Middle Mountain looking for him, and we went to his house. We actually got him on the ghost box, saying hello 3 times. And the third time he was just like, hello? Like, he couldn't believe that we could hear him. But then we didn't get much more from him after that. I think it's confusing, especially for the younger ones, how to communicate with the other side. And that night is when I actually saw the jackal. To me, it was in the house where he was killed, and me, Sadie, Glow, and Kat, she's no longer with us, but we all went down to this house and doing what we do with our gifts, and Kat and Glow go right across this cattle guard towards the house, and they're like, come on, let's go, we only have so much time, we don't want to get caught. And me and Sadie couldn't move past the cattle guard. We're just like, there's something in the house. And they're like, what? No, Mark is gone, nobody's here. But it looked as if like there was a TV on in the background and there was this dog-like thing running back and forth. And to me, at the time, not knowing about the jackal, I was like, it reminded me of Anubis. It wasn't quite as large and pronounced. The ears weren't as tall, but it was still running on its hind legs at an accelerated amount of speed in front of these windows. And so me and Sadie just stayed there. Kat and Glow came back shortly, and we ended up leaving. It was a very interesting night. Like, there was crackles in the trees and all kinds of weird, crazy noises all night. But that is when I decided to, put my fear aside and put myself out there and help others, because there really isn't a lot of help out there for people going through these things. And
no, there isn't.
I try to help people. I'm a people pleaser. I try not to be to a fault, but and that's my goal, to help people on this side and the other, whether they're going through a hard time or they've lost someone. And so to answer your question, 2012, when Dylan Redwine went missing, that's when I decided to come out of the paranormal closet and say, F it. I don't care what people think, I'm going to do it. And it's actually been a really good and positive experience, and I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah. Awesome.
And we had one more question here from UFO Joe. He says, or asks, do ghosts have problems with animals? Problems with animals. I think for the longest time, cats have been protectors for certain things. But that being said, animals can also be negatively affected by certain spirits or entities. There's been, animals that are attacked to the point where they pass, or, they'll get to the point where they're almost about to pass because this thing has scared them and stressed them out so much, and probably, trying to do that, trying to get rid of this creature because they do want to harm the family. And even back in Egyptian times, cats have been known to be protectors. But I do know my cats have seen things when I haven't, a couple times. But I'll just watch them and look at where they're looking, and then eventually it'll pick up. And animals, as far as dogs and other critters, they're keen to it too. They just have this certain psychic ability or sense, that protective or like survival instinct, basically. But they can see the other side. I think a lot of times they're triggered before we are. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, because I've known a few dogs that have gone off, and there's been nothing that we can see that have been setting them off. So, what do they know? What do they actually go after? That's what I always ask. So, if they can see something that we can't see, and they're going after it, like we had one dog as a guard dog in that same area that I was talking about before with the spare parts shed, and he would go nuts. He would just chase after things that we couldn't see, and we never did find out what he was chasing after. I know that there was one time that I had left the Spare Parts building to head into bed because I did an all-night stint on the internet in there, and there was a flying fox that flew straight over me and did a number 2 all over my back. It was well aimed, but I don't think it was those sort of things that the dog was after.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what it was doing.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Mm.
And it is amazing how that works, you know. I've heard people, especially on the internet, there's so many ignorant people on there. And, like, you know, dogs don't have feelings, they're so dumb, and blah, 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 and it's this, you know, I've got a term for her, but I won't say it, we're on the air. But, you know, I'm like, I think the one that doesn't have brains and has the big old fake boobies is, like, right in front of me right now, because you're saying the stupidest thing that I've ever heard.
Yep.
But we do
Bombshell
have what was that?
A bombshell blonde.
Yeah, bombshell for sure. We have a call in from area code 662. Who are we talking to?
It's Alyssa.
Hey, Alyssa.
Hello again, Alyssa.
Welcome back.
Hello. Thanks. I was gonna. I didn't bring this up earlier, but I was gonna speak about if anybody was. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. I'm sure they are. The seventh son of a seventh son.
Yeah, my mom actually took me to one when I was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Same. That's me and Caden were discussing it earlier, and he had said something about me bringing it up, so I figured I would. You know, my mom took me to one when I was a baby for multiple different things, and I watched when I was older. I watched her take my younger sister to one, and that was the first time I actually got to visually see it. I don't remember going when I was a baby, but I did get to go with my sister, and then as I became an adult and had a child of my own, I took my son. But I don't know too much about him. I know what I witnessed with him and what he was capable of and how amazing it was. You know, my sister had a thrush in her mouth.
That's what I had, yeah.
And it was at Christmas time. And, you know, we were at my grandmother's house and that whole family was there, and she was really small and she couldn't eat because, you know, her mouth was so raw. And, my mom kind of loaded us up in the car and we went over there, and he took my sister and he held her, and he was very gentle and loving with her. And, you know, he made me and my mom leave the room for a little bit, and we came back in, and I guess I really wasn't supposed to be watching, but I was. Yeah. He kind of wallered his mouth into hers, and when he handed her back to my mom, he immediately, like, just insanely projectile vomited. You know, he had this bucket beside him, and it was a very amazing experience as a child. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, as I got older and had my son, I took my son multiple times. I didn't want to put my son on medication, and when he was a very small baby, I had took him for thrush, and then later on he developed acid reflux, really, really bad, and I took him just to see if there was anything that the man could do. His name was Gag. At that time, he was probably in his late 90s.
Wow.
And he did multiple amazing things with my son that kept me from having to put him, you know, on medicine so that he could eat and be able to keep it down. And it was just something that I thought was amazing. And I'm not too familiar with it. I've done a little bit of research, but not a whole lot. But it was, I just wanted to kind of bring it up because it was a pretty amazing thing that happened, you know, multiple times in my life.
Yeah, that is amazing. It's like little tiny miracles. And like your sister, when I was a baby, I had thrush too. Your mom, perhaps she was breastfeeding or whatnot. My mom did as well, and she had strep B, I had strep B, so thrush is pretty prevalent with that because you're getting the yeast off the body into the mouth, and it causes that little infection in the mouth. Today, they have medicines for that. It doesn't always work like we think it should. But I had that, probably the same thing. I wasn't eating, so my mom's like, I got to do something. So she took me to a seventh son of a seventh son, and there's really not a lot of stuff out there about that. They're pretty hush-hush about it, but from what I understood, they said that he blew into my mouth, and then it was gone. Perhaps it was something like yours, but that was the basis of it. This is my dad telling it from a third person viewpoint. Probably what he had heard from my mom. She was spiritually gifted, so I'm sure she was allowed to stay. I'm sure he wasn't, because he was pretty blind to a lot of stuff until he got with my mom. He started seeing and experiencing things, but it is amazing how that old magic or whatever it is does actually work. It is quite epic. I'm so glad you shared that.
If it's kind of biblical. I have wondered if it was something about it was biblical, and it's just something it's not. It's kind of overlooked, or it's not mentioned in a way that we realize that's what it is. But it is. It's really, it's phenomenal. The little miracles that they can do.
So Alyssa, Shar in the chat room is asking, what is the seventh son of a seventh son? Well, it is exactly what it says. That's the lineup of how it works, but do you have a deeper input on that?
All I have really gathered, and I'm not going to say this is correct because this has just come from research. It, like you said, it is kind of what it says. It's the seventh son of a seventh son, but there is no, in the bloodline, there's no lapse, there's no daughters. It literally, it's just pure, it's the seventh son of a seventh son. I have heard and found that they were semi-biblical. But other than that, really, my entire life, I've heard my papa talking about going to one when he was a child. They went to one for multiple things. And when he went to one, the man's wife was also, I guess what some people call a green witch. She was very, she had the ability to make medicines out of things that were herbal. And in those times, I'm assuming it was a lot easier and cheaper than going to a doctor for things with your children.
Do you think it's attached at all to like Cherokee or something along those lines?
I do.
Yeah. My mom, she was half Cherokee. She's a blue-eyed Cherokee. She was beautiful. But yeah, I think it does stem from the native magic. There's so much out there, like the Skinwalker and the Medicine Man, and the seventh son of the seventh son being along those lines as well. They're all just, there's different names for it.
I agree. See, the one that I went to was, if you looked at him, you could tell. I'm not going to say that he was a pure Indian, but there was a lot of it in there. His skin was extremely dark, and at the age that he was, it had that leather-looking color and look that it has, and very dark hair. And I'm gonna say that it goes back to that, but I have no Bible proof of it, but I believe that that's where a lot of it come from.
So, do you remember going there? Was he in the backwoods as well, like way, way back in the woods, or was he more easily?
Well, his home it wasn't visual from the road. He lived about a quarter of a mile from my mom and Paul's house, and they live in the middle of nowhere. There's not even a red light where they're at. And but he had no children, which to me is very sad, because like I said, in order for you to be able to have those, there's no skipping in the bloodline. And him and his wife were never able to bear children, and she passed away. She passed away abundance of years before he did, suddenly and tragically. But he did. He was way back in the woods, which where they're at, everything's pretty much way back in the woods.
Well, yeah, and it kind of makes you wonder, do they draw from what's around them? Like, you can't be in a heavily populated area. You have to be out there and in touch with nature, and I'm sure a lot of that goes hand in hand, and it's pretty cool how, yours is basically the same as mine. Like, it was way back in the middle of nowhere, and I think they just kind of have to have that purity and cleanness around them, that energy from nature to draw from, and not the, chaos and other things that come from, being in a heavily populated area. But that's so awesome. I'm so glad you shared that, because I totally spaced that until you had mentioned it.
He did. I meant to bring this up a while ago. He did the very first time I took my son to him. Like I said, I took him 3 different times. And the very first time I took my son to him, at that time, I was not in tune with anything at all. I had no idea what the man was talking about. And he looked at me and he told me to be cautious with my son because he was an indigo child, and I had no idea what he was talking about.
He's gifted.
So I go home and I'm trying to call my grandparents, and I'm like asking my pa what an indigo child is, and he's like, "Well, honey, I don't know." But he did that. He was the very first person that ever told me that. And after that, I had 3 other people who were spiritually gifted in multiple ways tell me that. But it was pretty awesome. He was the very first person that ever told me that about my son. And within the last year, a lot of things have developed with him that go along with that, which has been an awesome adventure. But that was something else that he did. The very first time I took my son to him, he told me, to be cautious and pay attention, because I had a very beautiful indigo child on my hands.
Yeah, and if they do go astray, and that's why you do need to, I hate to use the term, keep a tight leash on them, but you got to keep a close eye and make sure they are making the right decisions and they know right from wrong, and that you share all your experiences with them, because I think it is kids like that do easily go astray, and it's hard to reel them back in. But on that note, Alyssa, we gotta go. It's time to end the show, if you can believe that.
Right. Well, y'all have an awesome night. It was awesome talking to everyone.
Thank you so much for calling in. You have a good night, Alyssa.
You too, Tessa.
Robert, did you have a website or anything you'd like to share with our listeners tonight?
I'll get in trouble if I don't mention it. I have been asked to mention Fire Up the Mic by Adnome, because that's where we normally hang out. We've been doing a few shows of our own on different things. I've been doing the crystal sort of things, like telling what sort of crystals are good and what sort of powers they hold, all those sort of things. I've also been doing that on my own on YouTube under battleliner.com.au. That's a no, not battleliner.com.au. It's Battleliner. Look for Battleliner. That's me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robert. It was so wonderful having you on the show this evening. And thank you to everyone. I'm sorry, what was that?
I said thank you for asking me.
I gotta have you back again.
Once, but
we got a popular consensus. We're gonna do this again, and you gotta be my co-host.
Okay, I'll do it.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else you may be listening in the universe tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening. It was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow on Spaced Out Radio's Psychic Sundays on spacedoutradio.com. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we own the night. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there. You guys have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you again so much for calling in with your stories. It was so wonderful hearing your experiences and learning from you. You all come back tomorrow night. I hope to see you here. Like I said, we have Mr. Clark in, Jamie Clark. He is a wonderful medium and psychic, and he will be our guest for Psychic Sundays. See you all back here tomorrow night. You guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. Sleep good and have sweet dreams. We'll see you tomorrow evening. Good night, guys.